Hi, you guys. It's Yaz, and today I'm going to talk about what happens to the narcissist as they get older, after they get 60 years old or older. People are always saying, how do these people end up? What happens to the narcissist? Well, I'm going to tell you what happens to that narcissist. So do you think they automatically change when they get older, they get better, or they start to realize that they made mistakes throughout their life? No, not the narcissist. In their eyes, they never made mistakes. It was always the other people's fault, the other partners that they had relationships with. So just because a narcissist is 60 or older doesn't mean that all of a sudden they're going to change their ways. You know, a narcissist who was playing around in their 20s, 30s, 40s does not change even after their 60s. Like somebody asked me, will a narcissist stop cheating when they get older after 60? And the answer is no, they won't, okay? Narcissists will still want plenty of supply. If anything, they'll be desperate to get more and more and more supply because their age is wearing on them now, and they need to feel like they're young. They need to feel like they're important, that they're validated. So a narcissist will never stop cheating, all right? They will be cheating till they can't cheat anymore, okay? Till they're physically unable to cheat. But the irony in all that is a lot of narcissists will sit there and tell you, well, I used to be a player, but I'm not a player anymore. Yes, they are, okay? Don't believe that. Don't believe that, because if they can get away with it, they will do it. So, you know, it's like I was coaching some woman who was dealing, she was in her 50s, and the guy that she was dealing with, he was in his early 60s. And she said to me, you know, when is he ever going to grow up? He's never going to grow up. He's going to be like this till the day he dies. And why is that? Because they can, number one, there's supply out there, and it's so easy to connect today with the advent of social media, you know, inbox, dating apps. There's so many other ways to get supply today that they just can't resist, you guys. So they're still going to be playing around even after 60 years old, okay? So I'm going to get into this. What they're going to do, all right, as they get older is a lot of times they're going to recycle old supply. This is when you may hear from the narcissist. When they get older, it's harder for them to get new supply. And this is when they're hitting up all their exes because they're getting desperate now, all right? So they knew they had you at one point in their lives that you really cared, or you were sweating them. So they figure, you know what? Time's gone by. Maybe you've softened up and forgot about what they've done. And this is when you may hear from the narcissist 5, 10, 15 years later. Never say never, okay? Even if you expose the narcissist and you have a big blowout with that narcissist, guess what? They could still contact you years later. How do I know? Because I've had narcissists contact me over 10 years later. Yes, I couldn't believe it, all right? They make like nothing ever happened, and they send you a friend request on Facebook, or they have your number, and they just say, hey, how you been? Or long time no talk, or hello, stranger. They love to send you the hello, stranger, all right? Like you're supposed to entertain that, right? And, you know, no acknowledgement of what you went through in the past, nothing. So when a narcissist gets older, let's say, you know, in their late 50s, 60s, and older, they love to recycle old supply, love to see if these exes will entertain them, okay? And you know that when a narcissist contacts you after all that time, they're pretty much desperate, okay? For them to go back and try to recycle old supply from years ago, you know that that narcissist is desperate and they're having a hard time getting supply. The other thing that older narcissists that are, let's say, over 60 love to do is try to rekindle with their kids that they abandoned, all right? A lot of times narcissists come back not only to their exes, but to their children. They may try to all of a sudden they want to be a family man or a family woman. All of a sudden they want relationships with their kids when for all those years they disappeared. They had a good time for them. They were in other relationships. They may have even married somebody else and then they got divorced. Now they're getting older, they're slowing down, and guess what? Now all of a sudden they want to have relationships with their kids because now their kids are older. And when the kids are older, they like to be around the older kids. They don't like young kids because young kids are a lot of work. They have to entertain them. They don't want that kind of responsibility or being tied down. They like older kids that validate them. So they will try to rekindle relationships with their kids later on in life. Now, a lot of children remember what the narcissist did, and they don't want anything to do with that parent because they remember how that narcissist was not there for them. But I have to put this in there. There are children who will side with the narcissist or go with the narcissistic parent who abandoned them or who was toxic. And why do they do that? Generally, for two reasons. One, that parent has money, and so the kid wants the parent, the narcissist may be giving the kid money to buy their love. So the kids may, join sides with the narcissistic parent because that's where their bread is butter. And two, because that parent lets them do whatever they want to do. Whereas you, who raised the children, did everything and has boundaries, as kids get older, they don't want to deal with boundaries. So they rather go with the toxic narcissistic parent that lets them do whatever they want to do. And that could be a situation where kids will turn and side with the narcissistic parent, all right? The other thing that narcissists do as they get older, let's say after 60, they start going to doctor's offices all the time. Yes, they're always in doctor's offices. You see them in medical buildings all the time, bitching and moaning at the staff, complaining about this, that. Because as narcissists get older, they become more of nitpickers, all right? They're nitpickers, and they're running from one doctor's office to another because they put so much wear and tear all those years on their body, running around, getting lack of sleep, drinking, drugging, sleeping around, and guess what? Their body breaks down. Now they're over 60 and they're in doctor's offices, flirting away with the staff in the doctor's office. This is so true, you guys. You see like some of these older narcs in the doctor's office flirting with somebody who's attractive in the doctor's office or bitching and moaning over there, all right? The other thing that they're doing when they're getting that old, they want to get very young supply, all right? Because they're panicking about their age. So the younger the supply, the bigger the high for the narcissist. Nobody loves, like a 60-year-old narcissist would love to have a 25-year-old supply. That is like the biggest ego boost for them, thinking that, they really want me, when that supply is probably narcissistic and just using the older narcissist for money, all right? And a lot of times, the narcissist doesn't care. A lot of times, what they'll do as they get older is they're going to have to use money to get supply, and especially younger supply. So they'll be flashing money. If they have money, they'll be flashing money. Or if they're older, they're going to look for a situation where they can live off somebody, move into somebody's house, live off them, all right? That may be a situation where they would go for an older supply. So they're going to get desperate as they get older because they're losing their looks. And what does that do? That gives them less opportunity for supply, and now they've got to settle for whatever's around. That's why a lot of times you see older narcissists, they could be in a relationship and you say to yourself, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're with that beast or whoever that person is. Like, I would never think that they would end up with someone like that. Well, it's not because they wanted to end up with someone like that. It's because they had to end up with someone like that because the narcissist never wanted to be alone. So they settle with whoever's around, but that doesn't mean that they're monogamous. They're still going to be trying to get supply on the side, but they may be using that person as a security blanket. Okay, somebody who cooks for them, cleans for them, does them favors, all right? Maybe somebody who gives them money or just knowing that somebody's there. The other thing, like I said, is the other thing that narcissists do as they get older, like over the 60 age bracket, they target religious groups, okay, and congregations. Now they're getting too old for the bars, the clubs, the places that young people hang in, the 20, 30-year-olds, okay? It's just so far they can go. So what do? They become part of a religious organization, a church, a synagogue, a mosque, and they get involved with that for supply. And they prey upon vulnerable people who are there trying to get their prayer on, and they figure, you know what, there's plenty of supply here. These are vulnerable people, and I can manipulate them, let them think that I'm a godly person, and I could get supply out of them. What better place than a person who believes in God? You're going to find people that believe in God and look at the good in people than to go to a religious congregation. And that's where the older narcs will hang out, at the religious congregations. They'll be going to, religious meetings and getting involved in events and everything like that. And you're thinking, oh, what a godly person. What? No, it's because they're limited now where they can get supply. And so because they can't really hang out in a bar and club that's 20, 30-year-olds, they'll stick out like a sore thumb, although you may get a few that do try that. They go where they can feel comfortable and where they can get some kind of supply, all right? Now, they may not necessarily get young supply in religious organizations. Some may, some may not, but they may be looking for a money supply, all right? Somebody who's widowed in a religious organization. A lot of widows and widowers go to religious meetings. They are targets for that narcissist who's after money, okay? They know that. Now, moving along, what happens to the narcissist after 60 years old about? They also go to the gym. They love to go to the gym. You'll see a lot of the old head narcissists, okay, in the gym in the mornings, all right, because a lot of them may be retired. They're hanging out in the gym. They're bullshitting. They're flirting with everybody. They want to feel healthy. They want to feel young. And you see them in the gym just hanging out and seeing what kind of supply. Hopefully they, can start up a conversation with some young supply in there. And that is another way that they are able to get supply, all right? And that's what the narcissist over 60 is doing. They're hanging out in the gym in the mornings, all right? What's another thing that happens to the narcissist over 60? They go and they get tons of plastic surgery. This is usually your female covert narcissist. She's trying to keep that youth, all right? So she's going to get, tummy tucks. She's going to get a lot of plastic surgery to try to feel young because she's incredibly insecure. She's not comfortable with aging. Everything is looks, and she's trying to attract supply, all right? So that's another thing that you see a lot of narcissistic people do is they go and they get plastic surgery when they get older. Now, here's a little disclaimer. Just because somebody gets plastic surgery, it doesn't necessarily make them a narcissist, all right? I have to always put these disclaimers because people start to take things the wrong way. The difference with the narcissist is they're doing it because they're obsessed with their appearance in order to feel young and to attract supply. That's why they're doing it, all right? What else is the narcissist over 60 doing? Okay, you ready for this one? You guys are really going to laugh at this one, but this is so true. They're looking for supply overseas. They're on the international dating websites, all right? The websites to supply in the Philippines, Russia, different areas of the world where they feel that they can get a young supply. Let's say you have an older narcissistic man. He's having a hard time getting supply, let's say, in the United States. So what does he do? He goes to foreign websites looking for, hopefully, in his eyes, a submissive female, all right? Because he feels, oh, they may be more submissive over there, like in a third world country or something, and they'll do what I want, and I can get a young supply overseas, and I could do what I want with her. But you know what the irony is in all of this? They actually get played by these people, okay? They get played by these people that are in these countries, these war-driven countries that that are desperate to get out. Like, you get involved with somebody overseas that's looking for a green card, they are going to love bomb the shit out of you, and then they're going to play you. Once they get that green card or once they're comfortable, they're going to dump you, all right? Because they don't care about you. 90% of them don't. It's all for that green card, all right? Most of the time, it's for the green card. So don't even mess with that. But these are what a lot of narcissists do, and this is how they get played by their own. They get played because they try to find supply overseas, thinking that, oh, these are desperate women, when these desperate women, or it could be the other way, it could be a female, an older female woman, getting these, supply in Africa, Nigeria. You see this all the time, how she's being love bombed. She's getting played, okay? And she's sending money over there and everything like that. Well, this is what happens to a lot of narcissistic people. And it happens to innocent people as well. It's not just narcissists. It happens to innocent people as well. But the narc will also look for supply overseas when they get older because they're having a hard time finding supply in their own area, all right? The other thing, keep in mind, as they get older, they get more angry, they get more bitter, because they realize that they can't do the things that they once were able to do. It's not so easy anymore. It's a lot easier for them if they have money, okay? Because with money, you could always get supply, but not necessarily supply that will care about you. They could get entrapped with another narcissist who's using them for their money, all right? They go on dating apps. You'll see a lot of older narcs on dating apps, and they're lying about their age because they're trying to get younger supply. Like, I had a woman ask me, she said he lied about his age on the dating app. She said, and when I confronted him about it, he said something to the effect of, oh, he didn't know how to change his age or something like that. I said, he is gaslighting you. He knows exactly what he's doing when he put that age on there. He was looking for younger supply. That's what he was doing, all right? So that's another reason. That's another thing that narcissists are doing. They're flooding the dating apps. They're changing their age, and they're trying to get younger supply. So if they're 50 and they say they're 40, now they could go for like a 25, 30-year-old, all right? Whereas if they're saying they're over 50, they know a 25, 30-year-old would probably not give them the time of day unless they were a sugar baby or something like that, right? So this is what the narcissist is doing over 60 years old, all right? So you guys, you got to understand something. A leopard never loses their spots. So whatever they did in their 20s and 30s, they're still going to be doing in their 50s, 60s, and even 70s. Yes, they do. I knew older narcs that were still cheating on their spouses even in their 70s, all right? So it never ends. It never ends till the narcissist is bedridden, okay? And that's the truth. Until they're sickly wherever they are, and then they're going to be bitching and moaning and complaining to people, and that's when they're going to have their narcissistic collapse, when they can't get out there and do what they used to do, all right? They're going to recycle the old supply. They're going to look to rekindle with their kids, all right, because now their kids are older and they're more fun. They could do more things with their kids when they're older. Like I said, they don't want to deal with the little kids because, that's too much work for the narcissist. They hate parenting. Listen to me when I tell you, narcissists hate parenting. They also going to be in doctor's office because every narcissist, as they get older, will always have some kind of sickness going on. Almost every narcissist that I know, and I know a lot, okay? Every single one of them has some kind of sickness or ailment, whether it's high blood pressure, whether it's sleep apnea, whether it's a stroke, whatever it is. They broke their bodies down, and guess what? When they're over 60, they're going to be in these doctors' offices, like torturing the doctors and nurses over there, all right? Or flirting with them. They're going to be in the gym, hanging out in the gym in the mornings. They love the gym in the mornings, the old heads, right? The old head narcs hanging out in there. They're not even working out. They're just hanging out, looking to see how they could flirt with people, all right? They're always going to be constantly trying to flirt. They'll flirt with anything. They'll flirt with the cashier. They'll flirt with the person in 7-Eleven. They'll flirt with anybody to try to get some kind of attention or supply, all right? They'll be flaunting money to try to get supply. They'll be targeting religious groups and congregations because now they don't fit in to where the younger people hang out. Like I said, they'll stick out like a sore thumb in like a bar or club with 20, 30-year-olds. So they got to go where it's a little older and see what supply they can get there, all right? They'll be getting tons of plastic surgery to try to keep that youthful look, all right? Because everything is looks with a narcissist. They may be looking overseas on the dating apps for supply, okay, that they feel that they can manipulate and be submissive to them. And they'll get bitter when things aren't working out for them. And that's usually, like I said before, when they're going to have that narcissistic collapse, okay? And they'll be all over the dating apps, all over the inbox, on Facebook Messenger, Instagram inbox, Snapchat, although Snapchat's a little on the younger side, but they'll be on Tinder. They love Tinder, okay? They absolutely positively love Tinder, and POF, Plenty of Fish, is another big one for a lot of those old heads, all right? So that's what's going to happen to the narcissist over 60 years old. And you see them. They're divorced, and they may be divorced once, twice, 3 times. And you say to yourself, well, when are they going to finally grow up? When are they going to settle down? And my answer to that is never, okay? Never. They may settle down, get married to somebody, but guess what? They can't resist the temptation, and they will be doing all these things behind their partner's back. They're going to end up settling with who's ever around when they get to be in their 60s. They're going to want to cling to somebody because they'll be afraid that they die alone. So they're going to try to grab somebody, whoever they can, just some doormat, and they're still going to be dogging them, all right, and doing things behind their back because they just love the game, all right? They just love the game. So they never, ever mature. They never, ever want more in their life. They just want to have a good time, satisfy their fetishes and their fantasies. It's all about instant gratification when it comes to the narcissist. So they don't progress, they don't grow as an individual or build a foundation or water a tree and have it flourish with a family. No, it doesn't work like that. What they do is they go out and have a good time on the side and their partner doesn't know about it, or they get abandoned by all of the supply they dealt with. But from my personal experience, they will cling on to somebody. But it generally may not be somebody that they want to cling on to, but they'll cling. They got to have somebody. All right. So they'll end up with someone they really don't want just to have somebody because they're afraid of being alone. And then they'll try to get other supply on the side, but they won't do so well for themselves. And that's when the narcissistic collapse will happen. So I hope that helps you. If it does, hit the subscribe button, share the podcast. If you're looking for confidential one-on-one phone coaching, I have limited time, limited availability, okay? The link is askyaz.wixsite.com/thegameexposed. For all my videos, reels, information, it's all laid out on YouTube at the Game Exposed podcast. I have a lot of videos and information on narcissism on my YouTube channel. So check it out at the Game Exposed podcast on YouTube. You'll find a lot on covert narcissism, a lot on discard, a lot on triangulation, toxic family, all their manipulation tactics, silent treatment, all of this word salad, all the games that the narcissists play. I've done so many reels on this. Okay, so it's a good source of information for you guys. Also, other places for more posts and reels, Facebook, Instagram is the Game EXP123, and TikTok, you guys, is the Game Exposed. And have a great day.